On today's Patriot Nation podcast, we will be looking at the season finale down in Miami. Patriots versus Miami. Of course, Patriots have clinched a playoff spot, but the seeding is undecided. As a matter of fact, they could go as high as the number 1 seed, depending on what happens this weekend. So it's a big game down in Miami. Of course, we all know Tom Brady struggled down in Miami. How will Mac Jones do in Miami? It's a big question. And we're going to end with 5-minute fantasy today. A few victory laps, maybe a few walks of shame as well. So it's a heck of a show. So buckle up and cue the music. All right, Keegan, just me and you tonight. Spags had something come up, so it's just me and you. We're flying. I would say flying solo, but we're together. So just like we were down to Houston. So yeah, so it's gonna be fun. Honestly, last week was some of the most fun I've had watching the Patriots all year because it was just so easy and they just dominated from beginning to end so well. It was fantastic.
Yeah, you knew it from the start too, and it wasn't even like from the start of the game. It was, it's Jacksonville week. Everybody take a breath. Like coming off 2 losses, who better to play than Jacksonville and blow their doors off? And Kieran said it last night on his show on Three and Out. He was like, Jacksonville, they get beat, but the Patriots beat them more than anybody else beat them this year, if that makes sense. Right. So it's nice to see them take care of business the way we knew they could. It was just a matter of if they were going to or not.
100%. And the Patriots, now have put up 50 points twice in a season, twice this year. I think the only team this year to do it. I think they're the first team since like the 2012, 2014 Packers.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but it's like, that doesn't happen to put up 50 points twice in a year. And I know, yes, one of them was against the Jets and one of them was against the Jags. I get it. Like, that's true. But like the Jets beat the Titans. The Jaguars beat the Bills. Like, I mean, so yes, obviously these teams stink. We know that. But then they beat team. I mean, for the love of God, they beat the Bills 9-6. The Bills scored 6 points against that team, and you scored 50. So of course, weird things happen in every game. But like, to go in and put on the type of performance that they did when they had really crappy weeks, back-to-back weeks, it's really not. It was impressive to see.
Yeah, and I mean, we forget they put up 45 on Cleveland. And we talked about victory laps earlier. I said they were going to score more points on defense than Cleveland would on offense. They tied. It's still pretty damn good, So they've taken care of business when they were supposed to.
Yep.
And I think in the grand scheme of things this season, that's been one of the nice things because last year, like they'd go out and beat Baltimore, who they had no right beating at all, and like driving rain. And then they'd come back the next week in a team that they could have beaten, and then they end up losing. You know what I'm saying? So it's nice to see. I think that's some growth that we've seen even earlier this season with Miami. We'll get into it in a minute, but they should have beaten Miami week 1 because Miami lost 7 straight after that.
Right.
And, they didn't end up doing it, but as they've come along, they've started to take care of business. So the sign of a good, if not just decent team is being able to take care of business.
Well, and I think that's a good point, right? And it does bring us right into Miami. It's a good segue into Miami. That was a pro segue, kind of like a Spag segue right there.
I'm learning.
It's like he's here, you know what I mean? But Miami is an interesting case because they did win 7 in a row. Now, they played mostly crap during those 7-game stretch, although they did beat the Ravens in there. But they played mostly crap in that 7-game stretch. But again, just like you said, it doesn't matter who you play. Ultimately, you still have to win those games. And they're hard. It's hard to win in the NFL. And, they did that. And so now you're looking at it saying, all right, Miami's not technically out, but they'll be out with a loss, of course. If they beat you, there's a possibility they get in. They still may not get in if they beat you, but there's a good chance that they get in if they beat you. So they have a lot to play for. You have less.
Talking about Miami?
Yeah.
Miami's out.
Miami's eliminated. You're right.
Oh,
that's right.
They're out of there.
Yep. That's my mistake. So you're right.
Still, you're going to say seeding.
Right. And that's the biggest thing for me is that the seeding. And now I think Miami's a fairly well-coached team. I think that they are limited. 2 is an interesting. I will talk about 2 in a minute. But I am curious to see how they play against Miami because I think Miami is a pretty good team, right? And so they're not a crap team like the Jaguars or the Jets, but they're also not really a good team either, right? So they're, they can play well at times, but that's a team the Patriots should really beat, and so we'll kind of see how it goes. I'm hoping they win, of course. I think everyone is. But, I think it's going to tell us a lot about where they're going, this weekend.
Yeah, Miami, they're like Swiss cheese, like they've got holes everywhere. That offensive line, specifically the left side with two guys that they've drafted in back-to-back drafts, that's a bad offensive line. They've given Tua, who, like you said, we're going to talk about him. They've given him no time to do anything. All of his highlights you'll see are him falling backwards and making a throw, which half of his throws he's retreating. So that offensive line's bad. Their running backs are terrible. That's the second worst rushing offense in the NFL. So offensively, you shouldn't have an issue stopping them. It's just, it's a solid defense. And they've got playmakers. Jalen Phillips, who I was dead wrong about in the draft, is a stud. In the middle, like Christian Wilkins and Emmanuel Ogba and those guys, Raekwon Davis, that, big boys in the middle that can stop the run. So it's a solid team who can win games, but they've got holes. And the Patriots should be a team and have been a team that can poke holes in teams and take advantage of those situations. So I think personally, if you can run the ball on them, you'll have no problem beating them.
Yeah, I'd agree. And it's kind of funny because you look at it and say, okay, if Damien Harris doesn't fumble in week 1, he just that one thing changes about the season. Everything else in the season stays the same, but that one thing that changes where he doesn't fumble there. The Patriots win that game, and now the Patriots are sitting in the 1 seed as opposed to sitting in the 5 seed, right? And so it's crazy how much of a difference it can make. And we talked about seeding already, but like the Patriots have a chance to be the 1 seed at the end of now. It's incredibly improbable that would happen.
0.03 I saw.
I mean, the fact that, the Bills would have to lose to the Jets. The Chiefs would have to lose to the Broncos.
Broncos?
Yep. No, Jesus. And the Titans would have to lose to the Texans. So it's not going to happen. But like theoretically, it is possible for it to happen. And so, but just the fact that they're there in that spot is pretty unbelievable. And we all predicted 11-6 before the season. So like we kind of saw them here.
I'm hoping. I want that win.
Right? Me too. That'd be nice to get that one right at least, Although I had them at 11-6 and missing the playoffs, but I thought this AFC was going to be really good. And
you kind of saw it though, because the AFC, everybody's the same team in the AFC. They're all the same. I think everybody's scared of playing everybody, but also everybody thinks they can beat everybody.
And that's the crazy thing is that you look at it and say, okay, the Patriots have only beaten 2 teams in the playoffs. Okay, but so wasn't everyone else. Kansas City's beaten 1, I think. I think Tennessee's beaten 1. Like, it's like the teams that are in have lost to all the teams that are. It's like crazy. You look at it and say all these teams have lost all these teams. So it's just like, it's almost like no one's proven, but everyone's proven because no one's proven. It's like,
And you see it in the NFC where all you need is one team to be dominant,
right?
And everything else falls where it's supposed to, because they'll take a couple losses away from other teams. The middle class will, shake out like it usually does. And then you've got a normal playoff alignment where Green Bay's at the top. There's a couple teams fighting for the last seed at the end of the year, but everybody else is kind of where they're going to be. The AFC is, we beat them, they beat them, they beat them, and then everybody's beating each other, and everybody's the same team. So without the dominant team that we've seen the Patriots be for the past 20 years, the AFC is kind of a shit show.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. So honestly, I think, and I want to circle back to 2-and-on, because I love Big Cat talks about, he's in 2-and-on and believes that, Tua is a great quarterback and everything. I love it. I think it's hysterical. I actually traded for Tua in one of my dynasty leagues before the season started because I looked at it and said, Parker, Waddle, and Will Fuller, and I'm like, wow, like this could be good because Will Fuller never plays, which is on me. I should have known that. Like Will Fuller doesn't play. Waddle's been great, but like the thing about Waddle is that he's a deep threat who has. I don't think he's caught a deep pass this year because he can't. Because as you said, like they can't block for him. But Tua is an interesting case. It's almost like we still don't know what Tua is going to be, right? Even though Tua's had a lot of chances and he's now in his second year. It's like you're still not sure. The jury's still out on Tua because he has no time. He has no running game. The offensive play calling, sometimes you're like, what the hell is going on here, right? But, and PFT says it all the time, like, it just seems like every game, the ball is just on the ground next to Tua at some point. Like, just randomly, right? Like, what's the ball doing on the ground? Like, how'd that happen? So, like, and so I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I feel like Mac's already better than him. That's how right.
I would probably agree with you there. We talked yesterday about, we kind of all came to this general consensus that Tua is just the new age average quarterback, where new age football, every quarterback's going to throw stupid interceptions. They're all going to make mistakes. They're all going to make unbelievable plays. That's just the way football is now.
Yep.
And he's the average, where I think he'll probably make a couple more bad plays than good plays, but he's like a net zero. He's kind of like, he's not going to help you win. He's not going to be the guy that makes you lose, I don't think either. Right. And where I come to it is, when you talk about a quarterback, it's would you try to move on and see if you could get better, or do you just keep him and build a team around him? I think there's a higher likelihood that they build a team and they get better with him than trying to move on and get somebody else, especially from this draft.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
I think the one person I would take over him that's feasible this offseason would be Kirk Cousins. Everybody else, it's like, just take Tua. Just try to build around him.
Well, I agree. And the other part about Kirk Cousins is that he's super expensive. So it's like, even if you were to get Cousins, you'd have to pay an arm and a leg for him, whereas Tua's on his rookie deal. So, that gives you the added benefit of playing with him, And so maybe a guy like Deshaun Watson, they've been linked to him forever, since before all the allegations came out. Yep. So, and even after the allegations came out, they were still linked to him about, maybe they'll trade for him anyways, even though who knows if he's guilty or not, right? So that obviously is going to play out, I would assume, this offseason, right? That stuff will go to trial, and we'll decide. I guess a jury will decide whether he's guilty or not, or he'll settle, or who knows what's going to happen. But that's going to depend on a lot of stuff what happens. But I do think Miami has a chance to be okay, right? And Zach Wilson now, I don't know, Zach Wilson stinks, but could he get better? Maybe. So now you have 4 young quarterbacks that are all kind of okay. I don't know. So it's kind of like, I want them to be okay, because I think it'd be fun to have a division where all 4 of the quarterbacks are young and pretty good. But it is going to be interesting. So, but I think Miami, grand scheme of things, you should beat Miami. Tua should not beat you. Tua as a quarterback should not beat you. It just shouldn't happen. And I don't think the Patriots will let that happen. But him as a quarterback definitely 100% should not beat you. And so Patriots should take care of business on Sunday. So we will see about that. But I think that's the case. If that does happen, the Patriots now are set up, I think, extremely well to make a run. The team that scares me the most, and the team that should scare everybody the most, is Kansas City, because Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes. They are the best team in the AFC as far as I'm concerned, right? I feel like everyone should feel the same way. Maybe they don't, but I feel like everyone should probably feel the same way.
You're lying to yourself if you don't think they're the best team in the AFC.
Right. So the Patriots now, if they finish as the 5 seed, even if somehow maybe they finish as the 4 seed, highly unlikely, but if that somehow happens, you don't have to play assuming things work out the way that we think they're going to. You won't have to play Kansas City until the AFC Championship game, if you get there. Right. And so, yes, is it going to be easy playing Buffalo or Cincinnati, whoever ends up as the 4 seed? Absolutely not. Is it going to be easy playing Tennessee? No, of course not. But you at least have a chance against those teams, whereas I feel like you going into Kansas City, there's a very small chance of you winning those games. So to me, I look at that and say, you at least give yourself a pretty good shot if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that the likelihood, if they win the division, I think it's almost unanimous. Everybody thinks they'd end up being the 3 seed. And then you get, that's a walk in the park, because Buffalo would fall to the 7 seed. So you'd get either Oakland or, Los Angeles, whoever, right?
Right.
But I think everybody would be willing to put their money on 5 seed New England, going to Cincinnati, playing the 4 seed Bengals. That's, let's say, 80% chance that's probably going to happen. And that's best case scenario first round for them. Because I look at the top 4 teams are Buffalo, Kansas City, Tennessee, Cincinnati. Those who are going to be the top 4 seeds.
Right.
Don't want to play Buffalo or Kansas City. And if you're looking at Tennessee with Derrick Henry coming back and the way that team's been built, and Mike Vrabel just wins football games that he's not supposed to win, give me Cincinnati. worry about 2 players, and then move on from there.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're gonna draw either Cincinnati or Buffalo in the first round. So let's not hope to win the division. Just hope that you don't have to see Buffalo in the wild card round.
Right. And I'll tell you what, I'm almost kind of hoping for Buffalo only because it would be so amazing to win that game. And I don't know if they will. I don't have confidence that they will win that game. But if you were somehow able to go into Buffalo and win, I would burn down Bill. I would take to Twitter and burn down Bill's Twitter if that were the case. Like, I would go on an absolute rampage. And our good friend Greg Thompson did the same thing for, all he did was just celebrate for like 3 straight days, take victory laps about how the Patriots how the Patriots lost to the Bills and enjoying every single second of it. And I don't blame him one bit. He 100% deserved it. And I would do exactly the same thing, and it would be so glorious. But on the flip side, if you were to lose that game, which is pretty likely, you'd have to deal with all that crap for the next 6-7 months, right? So that would be unfortunate. Tough. But it'd be pretty cool. You got to remember now, Burrow's not playing on Sunday. Neither is Baker Mayfield. Baker's not as big of a loss, but it's kind of crazy because Burrow says that he could play, but like, if he could play, why the hell wasn't he playing? I mean, technically, they could still be the number 1 seed, right? Like, and I know, like, the division's like, I think he might be a little bit more banged up than he's saying, because otherwise, why wouldn't you put him out there? Even if it's just for, first half, hey, let's see how it goes first half, and then we're good to go. I feel like, maybe he could gut it out and play, but he's certainly not 100%. He's certainly not even close to 100%, because otherwise he'd be out there playing, I think, at least.
They've got the same thing with Joe Mixon, too, where he finished the game. Joe Mixon was there until the field goal attempt. But he's not playing either. And that, for me, that feels more like if Joe Mixon gets hurt, we're kind of screwed. So let's just not do it. And it's the same thing with Burrow, too. So I would kind of lean the other way and saying, is it worth throwing 2 guys who are hobbled out there against a menacing defense? Like, yeah, let's throw Joe Burrow out there and play Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. No thanks. Let's keep him on the sideline. Let Brandon Allen or whoever the backup is take all those hits and live to fight.
Are the Browns out?
What was
that? The Browns out? I think the Browns are out.
The Browns are out.
That's what I thought.
I think there's like a backdoor chance where they're not fully out.
But it's like they're like almost guaranteed.
Tie, and then they'll get in, something like that. So, and it's a similar thing with Indy, too. Indy's the one team that we haven't talked about where if Indy doesn't win, they're probably out because Indy needs to win, or Indy needs to lose, Cleveland needs to win, and then there's another one. I think Las Vegas needs to beat Los Angeles, and Indy would be in, or Indy would be out if all 3 of those things happen. But it's not 100% that they're going to be in.
Bro, think about Indy now. Indy gave up a first-round pick for Carson flipping Wentz. And look, I get it. I get it. You're trying to get in the playoffs. The whole thing. Fine. If they lose, which they're playing Jacksonville. I mean, like, if they lose, like, Jesus Christ. But even still, if they lose and don't make the playoffs, or even if they win and somehow don't make the playoffs still, Jesus Christ, what an abject failure for them to give up a top 20 pick for Carson freaking Wentz, who stinks out loud. Like, he's really bad, And so you look at it and say, man, we're going to give a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. And then, I guess, it's similar to I look back to Minnesota. And so everyone made this comp when Jimmy G got traded. Everyone made the Eagles got a first round pick for Sam Darnold. Eagles got a first round pick for Sam Darnold because the Vikings bet on themselves and said we can make the NFC Championship game with a crappy quarterback, but we need at least a mediocre to crappy quarterback to get us there. Turns out they were right. They just picked the wrong quarterback. The next year with Case Keenum, they made it to the NFC Championship game. They picked the wrong crappy quarterback, right? So and I guess the Colts did the same thing, but man, Carson Wentz he's not good. He's just not good. And, I don't know. Whatever. I would have never made that trade if I were them, but I understand what they did. I hated the trade at the time. I still hate the trade, but maybe it'll work out for them because maybe who knows? They win that first round playoff game. And I know they're going to Buffalo probably, but still it's, I don't know.
I'm less anti Carson Wentz. I would not want to cover or watch a team that has Carson Wentz playing quarterback. That sounds like a nightmare. Yeah. But I don't think he's like the worst quarterback in football. A lot of people they kind of poo-poo him. I think he's similar to Tua, where it's like he's kind of a zero. If he doesn't turn the ball over, you got a good chance of winning. But he'll probably turn the ball over. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I just think that trade, that was a reach because it's a little bit of hubris on their part, being like, we're a good football team. He's a good quarterback. That this is going to put us over the top. No, you're a good football team. He's average, and right. He'll make a mistake that is going to lose you a game eventually. You just kind of hope it's not down the stretch, like against Jacksonville, and then you lose out of the playoffs. That's bad situation to be in as if I'm a Colts fan.
Right. No, and that's kind of where I stand on it. Right, is like, you know, I don't know. I just kind of feel like, and so I'm curious here. So the Chargers are the 5 seed right now. Is that correct? The Chargers are the 6 seed. I'm sorry.
6 seed. Yep. And
then the Colts are the 7 seed right now, currently.
Yes.
And then the Raiders are just out. Raiders are the same record, but they're just outside.
So if Vegas
because of tiebreakers, right?
They're 7, and it bumps Indy up to 6. If Los Angeles wins, I think Indy stays at 7. I'm not sure.
You might be right. Yeah.
But that's what I believe will happen.
And the Chargers aren't right. The Chargers aren't in. The winner of that game is in.
Yes,
correct. The loser of that game's out.
Yep.
Interesting. And the Steelers have a chance to make it in, don't they? Or are they eliminated?
Another one where 3 teams,
because they have the tie. It's like the most bizarre thing ever, dude. You know, like it's a whole thing.
And that's just, if we go back to Patriots, this is including ties, which a lot of whatever websites that do the calculations, they don't include, but including ties, the Patriots could finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, or 7.
Right. It's great.
Like feasibly, that could happen.
Right.
Which is unbelievable. I'm sure it's happened before, but I can't remember the last time everything was jumbled up like this.
It's just really bizarre. Yeah.
That just shows you kind of what you're dealing with, where everybody's the same team.
Right. My favorite part about it is that the only team that can't get to the number 1 seed out of the top 5 is Buffalo.
Yeah, very fun.
It's kind of like, wait, what? They're winning the division right now, and the Patriots have the best chance to get the number 1 seed over them. You know, so
makes 0 sense.
Yeah, no sense at all. So, but it's gonna be. Listen, it is gonna be fun. I think the extra game adds a little extra wrinkle here, where like it's an extra weekend that everyone's kind of. I mean, I saw Mike Renner tweet out like, "This is stupid. Like, there's an extra weekend that no one cares." And I'm like, well, but like, none of the playoff seeding is decided. Like, yes, most of the teams that are in are already in, but like none of them are decided. So, which is crazy. My dad just texted me, if Monday night ends in a tie, both the Chargers and Raiders get into the playoffs.
Right. So it's like
so ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Who knows? You know?
Maybe the Raiders and Chargers could work out a deal beforehand and decide to end in a tie, and then therefore they both make the playoffs.
Just throw interceptions every play. Just like
right. Just throw a pick with 0-0. We'll just end in a 0-0 tie. No big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's Sunday night, right? Sunday night game. There's
Sunday night. Yep. No game on Monday. That's the national championship.
Right. No game on Monday, except then wild card weekend is a game on Monday. Like that's so dumb to me. Like
Herb Street and Fowler, they're like the premier college football duo. The announce crew. They're doing a Saturday game. I think they're doing whatever game Cleveland's in, something like that. They're playing, or they're doing a Saturday game
this week,
like 2 days from now, tomorrow, if you're listening to the podcast. And then they're doing the national championship on Monday, and then the week after, I think they have a playoff game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is they're kind of throwing everything at those two guys.
Yeah, I mean, hey, what the heck, right?
It's weird here with everything, because the NFL, it used to be set in who would play. We were talking about it in the Slack channel, or they were trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But there used to be a set way. Now I think it's just whatever committees like, I want to see this game here, this would make the most sense, and they kind of play it by ear. Right.
Wild card weekend. And then I think divisional weekend, it reverts back to the same thing where it's like, okay, if you get the early game on Saturday, you get the late game on Sunday, and vice versa. So, but yes, wild card weekend is like it's a free for all, you know. So, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I mean, this is the time of year, of course, that everyone's excited about. This is what we're here for, right? And the Patriots are back in it. They missed it for 1 year. Patriots are back in it. Bill Belichick, by the way, 20 seasons with 10 or more wins. 20. That's outrageous. And of course, ties him with Don Shula. for the most all time. And I mean, it's just, I don't know how the hell he's done it. Right? I mean, obviously, I know how he's done it because he had Brady for 20 years, but like still, like the fact that he was able to do that, and I think this is the third time he's done it without him. He did it with Castle in 08. He did it this year, and then he did it. They had 11 wins in 94 in Cleveland. Matter of fact, his first ever playoff win was against Bill Parcells.
Is that Testaverde?
I think Vinny T was the quarterback that year. I believe so. Yeah. Yep. So
Vinny T, Matt Castle and Mac Jones, just
crazy, right? I mean, right. That's one of those things where you're like, oh my god, So, but yeah, that was fun. Matter of fact, they were saying Cleveland related the last rookie quarterback to beat him on the road was what's it called? Was Bledsoe in '93 in Cleveland. So, which is cool. It's always fun to see those things where you're like, it's been that long since like something like that happened. 1993 since a rookie quarterback went on the road and beat a Belichick team. So, it's hey, look, we have been so blessed here. We've been so lucky here to have for 20 years playoff games and playoff games to watch into January. I felt like last year's playoffs didn't even happen. I don't even remember them. Like I'm like what? I don't even remember. I know. Yeah, like I know Brady won the obviously the 4 games that he played, and I remember the decision to kick the field goal instead of going for it for Green Bay.
Yep.
But I honestly couldn't tell you anything about any of the other games. Like I can't, You
put a gun to my head and told me to name the AFC playoff teams from last year.
No shot.
I'm gone. I'm done. Because no chance I'm doing that.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not even like it's not even that you don't pay attention just because the Patriots aren't in it. It's just
right.
Like I said earlier,
last year was such a weird year too.
Without that team, like Kansas City wasn't even the team who blew doors throughout. They did in the playoffs, but throughout the year, it was kind of like were they the 2 seed last year? They might have been. So
no, were they the 2 seed last year? No, I don't think so. I thought they were the 1 seed. This is ridiculous. I know we could just Google it. I think they were the 1 seed though. Who the hell would have been the 1 seed last year if it wasn't Kansas City?
Yeah,
everyone else stunk last year. No one. The Bills didn't get a bye. The Chiefs got a bye, and the Ravens. Oh, were the Ravens the 1 seed last year?
I think the Ravens were.
Were they?
Let's see.
The Patriots beat the Ravens last year, for Christ's sake. By the way, Oliver, I'm feeling much better. Thank you. Appreciate you. Yes, I did test positive for COVID. I thought so. Yeah, I did test positive for COVID last week. I'm sorry. But technically, I guess was it last year? Yeah, technically it was last year. But yeah, I'm feeling much better. All 3 kids got it, so we've been home all week. And school's canceled tomorrow, which is pretty nice. So
this week off.
But this year, this year's playoffs I think can be a lot more memorable. And as you said in the AFC, anything can happen. And with Belichick as your coach, you give yourself a chance in every single game because you have the coach. And that's Tennessee's the same way, and Kansas City's the same way. And I think Buffalo, for the most part, is the same way. Like you have a good coach, right? And Buffalo's coach isn't quite as good, but I think Buffalo's coach is pretty good. So you give yourself a chance to play and win every single game because of that. And so, is it likely that they're going to win, 4 games and win the Super Bowl? Of course not. But it's 1 game. You just have 1 game to play against 1 opponent, and there's a chance that you can win that game. And that's all we want. That's all you're looking for is just give us a chance to get there. And it's pretty exciting and pretty fun. So, whether it's Cincinnati or Buffalo next weekend, it's gonna be a lot of fun to finally be back in the playoffs after a miserable playoff drought. I mean, shit, they haven't won a playoff game in 3 years. I mean, that's unbelievable.
It's a hell of a starting off point for the rebuild.
Yeah,
because this is the start of the rebuild, and it's just you're back in the playoffs, and you've got a good team. And it's like other teams would kill for that. The start of a rebuild for most teams is number 1 pick. Let's see if we can get a stud, and they kind of just flipped it on its head.
What's hilarious about it is that in the off season, that's one of the biggest things that I remember Rich Keefe was saying it. And I kind of agree with him, was like, you signed Cam Newton and you failed miserably. Instead of tanking last year, you won 7 games, you ended up in the middle of the first round. Like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you so dumb for doing that? Right. And like trying to win games, that's stupid, but you're building a culture with a young team. to now this year, you get Mac at 15 anyways without giving up any future assets. And then you look at it and say, okay, now we're back in the playoffs, right? We won 7 games last year. You kind of instill that culture in some of the young guys. You had a good draft last year. You had a great draft this year. You end up with Mac and Barmore. And then, of course, Stevenson. Like, it's some of those things for me where it's like, oh, my God, like, you know, what they've done in these last 2 years is outrageous. And, you know, to be here in this moment, you know, I think when Brady left in 2020, right, on friggin' St. Patrick's Day 2020, right?
Yep.
You know, we look at Logan Ryan picking out.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, that was the last play. Yep.
But you know, but we left on St. Patrick's Day. I think if you had said 2 years from now, we'll have the guy that we think is going to be the quarterback of the future and be in the playoffs, people would be like, "What? Are you like, okay, sure, we'll take that." You know, so to be back here is pretty impressive.
Yeah, good football team. They've got one, and it's not even half of the league can say that. Not even all the playoff teams can say that because their team, like New Orleans, might sneak into the playoffs. That's not a good team. They
stink,
and they don't have the quarterback. They don't have what you have. So, but yeah, being able to find the quarterback, and I didn't think it was going to be the guy. I don't know if you thought he was going to be the guy. Spags knew, but other than that, you know, he came in. He's done a good job so far. So,
well, and
Oliver said it. He's not wrong. This Belichick fella, he knows what he's doing.
He kind of does. He kind of does, doesn't he? You know what? And we were on record as saying we wanted them to trade up for Fields. We were all Fields guys, and Spags is a Fields guy too. But like, we all wanted them to trade up for Fields, and I wanted it too. And I didn't necessarily dislike Mac. I just, again, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I just felt like in order for him to succeed, he had to play like Brady, and like the fact. I was going to sit here and say, oh, we're going to find the next Tom Brady. Like, I just felt like that is so ridiculous to think that we're going to find the next Tom Brady and he's going to look like Tom Brady. That's just dumb. I'm like, there's no way that you can possibly pull that off, right? And they found, you know, again, he's not Tom Brady, but like, you know, they found the next quarterback and he plays like Tom Brady. And it's like, what the hell? How the hell did you do that? Like,
they found a guy who can play a similar style.
Right.
I like to say it like that. Don't even put Brady's name out.
No, that's a good point.
People are going to lose their mind.
Right. That's a good point.
They found the style quarterback that they know they can be successful with,
right?
Which is accurate, makes right decisions, isn't going to lose you a football game. Which is, it's nice to watch because you'll see other teams and they've got guys out there like Zach Wilson who he'll just chuck it and see what happens, and that's bad football. So
they're for sure. They are extremely lucky, and so you know it's one of those things, man. And I've been a Belichick truther for a long time, as most people have. But like, you know, but I just feel like he got a bad rap for some bad drafts. He did have some bad drafts. He had some bad misses. You know, and even like they're you know, I think exacerbated by the fact that like he misses on a player. When Belichick misses on a player, he doesn't just miss on a player. He like aggressively misses on a player.
Oh yeah,
like he trades up for Chad Jackson. And instead of drafting Greg Jennings, he drafts Chad Jackson. Like, not great. Instead of drafting friggin' Keenan Allen, he drafts Aaron Dobson. Like, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, you missed. And then, of course, we all
14 players they could say for N'Keal Harry.
Right, and that's what I mean. So it's like, you know, you have this like unbelievable stable of players, and you missed on, you know, all these wide receivers. You've missed on them, and it's like, hey, look, things happen. You know, you took, you know, whatever. So. And even I believe it was what's his name? Dominique Easley, I believe, was over at DeMarcus Lawrence, was it not? Like that's just yikes.
Like 3 picks before him. Lawrence went first in the second round.
Bill
Belichick, he'll hit you a grand slam home run, he'll hit you a double, or he'll strike out on one pitch. Those are the 3. And there's nothing, no in between. Really there's no singles in Bill Belichick's arsenal. It's all or nothing.
Yeah. So and you know, for the most part, what's crazy about it is that he does really well on hitting on some of those guys. You know, where you're like, those undrafted guys came out of nowhere, and you're like, holy crap, J.C. Jackson, Malcolm Butler, you know, Jacoby Myers, like, you know, on and on. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. And players that like Stephen Neal who didn't even play football in college, and you know, so it just you know he's hit on enough, but he's certainly missed some, and that's the way it goes, you know. So Anyways, we're kind of rambling. So let's get into, we're going to do 5-minute fantasy, but 5-minute fantasy be a little bit different this year. The fantasy football season is over for most of you, hopefully for all of you, because anyone that's playing week 18 in fantasy is just dumb, but it happens every now and again. But I'm going to hit the 5-minute timer. But now that this fantasy season's over, I thought we'd kind of take a look at some players that we were especially high on, or that we were especially low on, that we missed, or that we hit as well. So I'm going to start because my number one guy and Mike Daddy's Home Fantasy Football, who was on here with us before, his guy this year was Damien Harris. Damien Harris, I was screaming from the rooftops, Damien Harris this year is going to be a beast. He's going to be a running back 2 at worst, and you're getting him as a running back 3 or 4. And I had Damien Harris on a billion rosters this year. And although of course, he was out during that first playoff matchup, but, although didn't hit, he was great all year. And he's almost got 1,000 yards rushing. He's got 14 rushing touchdowns. He's had a hell of a year, right? And so he's one of those guys where I was like, I nailed it. I nailed that pick. So I was high on him, a lot higher than a lot of people were on him, and I nailed it. Another Patriots player that I was very high on this year was Jonnu Smith. That was a massive, massive mistake. I had said before the year, I thought Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry would both be would be tight end ones, which means top 12 tight ends. Hunter Henry I think he finished 10th or 11th. And Jonnu Smith was like 49th. I mean, that's not accurate. I don't know what number he was, but he was really low. He was terrible. But as a matter of fact, in the Scott Fish Bowl, which I'm doing the little Scott Fish Bowl shirt, in the Scott Fish Bowl, I got sniped of Jonnu Smith right before my pick in the 9th round, and I was so mad because I was literally going to take Jonnu in the 9th, which I thought was early, but still I was going to take him in the 9th round. It was a tight end premium league, which is why you get a full point instead of half a point for catch and a full point instead of half point for first down. So they get more points, but either way. So I didn't take him. So instead, I settled for Brandon Cooks in the 9th and Hunter Henry in the 10th. So not taking Jonnu Smith was the best thing that happened to my Scott Fish Bowl team. But those two guys, and I got a few more, but I don't know if you have anyone or not, but those two guys were like my biggest hit, and then my biggest whiff were those two guys.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing. I hit a grand slam on Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 4 in our league. With the way we score things, he was wide receiver 4. I took him in the 10th round. Yeah, 10th round, 4th pick. So if he's not listed as a running back / wide receiver next year, there's an issue. Yeah. They'd fix it. Right. Just great player. I kind of got screwed because my running back sucked, and if I was able to put him,
Cordero got it. There's no reason that Cordero Patterson should have it and Deebo doesn't. That's stupid.
Right. So I got kind of screwed because I had Miles Sanders was my running back 1 by the end of the year because injuries and so that sucked. And then I really missed, and it's not so much my fault or his fault, but Russell Wilson was just a massive disappointment this year for me.
He was awful.
I had him and Derek Carr were like the two guys that I had to roll with every week, which Derek Carr will get you 25 and then he'll get you 3.
Yep.
So, but that, and that's the risk you're willing to take when you drafted a quarterback high. I drafted Wilson pretty high, and he just, after the injury, came back too soon. I think that it's easy to say they lost 4 straight after he came back. They just scored 0 points for the first time in his career. Just he had the worst season fantasy-wise he's ever had. So, or he's had since his second year in the league. So tough that I went with him. Let's see when I drafted him, because that's
well, it's a little bit different too. We were in a super flex league, so it was a little bit different.
Yeah, but second round.
Second
round on Russell Wilson. That's tough.
Not great. Yeah, and again, we play 2 quarterbacks, so it's a little different, but still, that's really on him. Oliver said he was huge on
quarterback taken off the board, so that's tough.
The 3rd quarterback overall. Oh, that's bad.
I think so.
No, that can't be right. But either way, doesn't matter. That's bad. That's not good. Kenny Golladay, Oliver was high on. Not great. Not great there, buddy, for him. But you know what are you going to do? I was super high on Michael Pittman this year. Loved Pittman. He ended up working out great this year. I was very high. Now, here's a guy for me. Kyla Murray's a guy for me. I was so high on Kyla this year. I thought he had a chance to be QB1. When he played, he was very good. The issue with Kyla Murray is he doesn't play every game. That's the issue with Kyla Murray. Will he ever be an elite fantasy player? I don't know, because you can't trust him to play every game. And so that's the biggest issue with him. You're going to have to take him high because he's going to score a ton of points. But I think from now on, I'm going to steer clear of Kyla Murray, and I'm going to take guys that are getting drafted around where he's getting drafted, like Josh Allen is a great example of that. I would gladly – oh, there's a timer. But I would gladly take Josh Allen over Kyla Murray anytime in the future because I can trust that Josh Allen's going to play every game. I can no longer trust Kyler's going to play every game. I figured, he'll be healthy this year. Once he's healthy, he'll be fine. And he just wasn't. And so, like, that's a guy for me that I was kind of like missed out on that. And the last one is Michael Pittman. I freaking love Michael Pittman. Love the kid.
Already.
He was so good. No, I didn't say Pittman.
Oh, who did you say?
Did I? I said Damien Harris.
No, you said Pittman before.
Did I say Pittman too? Okay. Yep. All right, fine. Well, I'll double down on my love for Michael Pittman. And then the other guy that helped me out the most was Cordell Patterson because I didn't draft him in any leagues, but I picked him up right away. And then he had an absolute terrible end of the season. And so, like, he was great all year. And then the guy that I missed on my biggest whiff of the year, Jerry Judy. Makes me so sad to even say that man's name. I love Jerry Judy so much. I traded for him in like all of my dynasty leagues, and I'm just praying that they get a quarterback. They have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, and they have KJ Hill, and they have Noah Fant, and all of their receivers had horrendous fantasy years because their quarterbacks can't get them the freaking ball. It's just like it's ridiculous, dude. Like Denver has to get a quarterback. They have to get a freaking quarterback. They are loaded offensively. Now they have Javonte Williams too, and Gordon played well this year too. Like they have to get a freaking quarterback, man, because they are loaded offensively if they can ever figure it out.
They haven't evaluated and acquired a quarterback since John Elway. Peyton Manning signed with them.
Yeah,
he was like a 5-time MVP. They didn't really evaluate how good he was.
They were like, this guy Peyton Manning. We should pick this guy up.
Great. Like Jake Plummer was their last good quarterback before. It just horrendous. Jake Cutler,
you're right.
Who was the epitome of an average quarterback in the late 2000s. And
they gave up. So did they trade him? Right, they traded him for Kyle Orton.
Kyle Orton. That's because Cutler wanted out.
Right. No, I know, but they won that trade with Kyle Orton because Cutler stinks, Yeah. So man, what a mess. Oh, Kyle, freaking Jay Cutler. But you're right. Think about that, dude. They haven't evaluated and acquired a good quarterback since John Elway. And the only reason they got Elway was because Elway refused to play for the Colts. So it's like unbelievable.
That team, it's upsetting how bad that team is, or how good they've been because they don't deserve any of it.
No,
they just had 2 generational quarterbacks fall in their lap, and they won Super Bowls with them.
Right. Yep. So, anyways, that's it. So I hope you guys all enjoyed our fantasy content. We're gonna try to have more fantasy people on next year. I kind of dropped the ball on that this year. I didn't do enough work to kind of get more fantasy people on, but we had fun with it. We'll probably do the same thing next year. I'm already doing some mock drafts. I'm pretty excited about mock draft season.
God, you're a menace.
Bro, John Mechie, man. I want John Mechie on the team. So, listen, this is going to be like Amari Rodgers. Where last year I had the Amari Rodgers rule where Amari Rodgers was in every single one of them. And by the way, he looks like a terrible player. Terrible NFL player.
And I knew it from the start. I
wanted him so bad on the team.
Dad. Who cares? That guy stinks. We'll get into it during draft season.
Yeah.
I don't see it with John Mechie.
No.
Yeah.
I
also have Chris Olave colored glasses where
I
see roses and hearts when I look at him and no one else is the same, but I just don't
Olave would be my first pick, but I also don't know if I want to spend a first round pick on a wide receiver.
I would trade Mac Jones for Chris Olave immediately.
You're a lunatic. I know you've loved Olave since last year. I know that.
No,
but
2017. I
was gonna say
they're ready to get tweeted on draft night.
2017 what was he like a freshman in high school or something like that?
No, he was a redshirt freshman, and I tweeted before the Michigan game. I was like, Chris Olave is going to go off today. He had a punt. No, he had a 60-yard receiving touchdown and 3 tackles on special teams. He's a stud.
That's outrageous.
He's the best.
That's outrageous. Yep, he's good, but he was going to go super early, so they're not going to get him. But the guy I really want is Derek Stingley Jr. He's the guy I really want more than any other player in the entire draft is Derek Stingley Jr. Again, grandson of Darryl Stingley. Like, come on, dude. That'd be unbelievable. And he's also an absolute stud. He tore his ACL this year, right? ACL? Was it ACL this year?
It was another ligament. Like, he could have come back, but he chose not to.
Okay. So he got hurt, which shouldn't affect his draft stock, but it might. It might. And if it does, and he drops, just saying, so who knows? So, but yeah, anyways, he's the guy that I'm like, oh my God, if they could somehow get, because they need a corner so bad. But, it's never going to happen because he's going to go like number 5 overall or something stupid like that.
It was a ligament in his foot. It was only supposed to keep him out for 2 months, but he just decided not to go back.
He was like, forget
which
it.
is the right decision.
100% the right decision. And by the way, can we just chat about that for like 2 seconds here? Maybe not 2 seconds because, we're going to go long on that. But like, But that's an interesting conversation last year, and you mentioned Kirk
Herbstreit. Yep,
Herbstreit. Thank you. Talking about how the players don't love the game and all this and that, which is complete garbage to me. And I thought
people should go back and watch that.
What he said.
Watch the segment. Very different than the 30-second clip that people saw.
Really?
Yeah, he was talking about like superstar athletes, not just every college football player that's ever played.
Got it. So there you go.
But just I thought I'd throw that out
there. No, yeah, do that. But I will say I thought the best take was Big Cat had the best take on it. I'm sure other people had it too, but Big Cat was kind of the loudest with it, which is the players decide what they want to do. If a player decides he wants to play, then he plays. If he decides he doesn't want to play, then he doesn't play. And you know what? It doesn't freaking matter. Let them choose because they have the ability to choose. Let them choose. Like, does anyone begrudge? And I'm sure people do. But does anyone begrudge like Brian Kelly for leaving Notre Dame before the bowl game? No, they don't.
Yeah.
So no one even talks about it. It's not even a discussion, right? The players can decide what they want to do. If they decide they want to stay and play, let them play. If they decide they don't want to stay and play and when they want to opt out, then fine, opt out. Christian McCaffrey, I think, is the first player I remember. I'm sure there were others, but he's the first one I remember. Oh, Fournette opted out too? So
same year, same year.
Okay, so there you go. So those two guys opted out, and those are the ones where I remember people like, oh my God, like this and that. And I just thought, like, yeah, dude, who cares? It's just a bowl game. Like, maybe you want to,
See, this is where, like, this is going to turn into a thing. But
right.
I feel like it started with the Outback Bowl, which is, it's become, like, the best non-New Year's Six bowl. But if you don't want to play in the Outback Bowl for the team that I root for, I do not care because it's the Outback. But this year, I'm an Ohio State fan, Chris Olave guy. Olave, Garrett Wilson, they both opted out of the Rose Bowl, which in my eyes, the Rose Bowl, if it's not the national championship, it's the Rose Bowl, right? So it's become that whole thing. But then you look at guys like Oliver just said, Jalen Smith.
Jalen Smith, yep.
This year with Ole Miss, the quarterback, Matt Corral.
Yep.
He's going to be fine. Who knows what it is, but gets injured like the third play of the game, and then he's done. So the people will begrudge the players, and then the coaches will go do the same thing, and they'll be like, "Oh, but look what he got! He got the big house and the money and the cars." Right. It's like the players are just doing the same thing.
Correct.
It's just you don't see what they're getting in return. You just see that it's hurting the team. And Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma, and it didn't hurt, but Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, and it hurt bad. They they lost their way towards the end of that game. So
and it's
don't. Let people make decisions is really what it is. If somebody makes a decision, let them do it and leave it. Whatever the repercussions of that decision are going to be, that's for them to deal with. You don't have to think about it.
And that's the other part of it is that, like, why are we questioning what these kids are doing? Like, just let them choose. And the NCAA is giving them the opportunity to choose so they can choose. Now, if for me personally, if I were playing in the Rose Bowl, I would absolutely play in the Rose Bowl. But you mentioned Chris Olave. Okay, Olave doesn't play, and Garrett Wilson doesn't play, and Smith Marset goes off. Not Smith Marset. Smith and Jigba goes off and has an unbelievable game. And he had been good all year. But, he's playing in the Rose Bowl. Everyone's watching that game. And all of a sudden now, he's wide receiver 1 in 2023. And that happens because those two guys don't play. And then, he still would have been good.
Yeah, and it's not even just him. Marvin Harrison Jr., who he had 5 catches all year, caught 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl as a true freshman. Next year, I mean, who knows? He's probably going to be a top 5 receiver in the country next year as a sophomore. Right. They've got Julian Fleming, who's been hurt. He got an opportunity to play. He was the number 1 recruit 3 years ago. he's a junior now, and he's a sophomore now, finally able to play. So like it gives opportunities to other guys because college football rosters have hundreds of players, and 60 of them play. The rest of them just stand there. And top flight athletes don't get to play because they're being blocked. So it's giving other people opportunities. I have no problem if Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, both who played in the Rose Bowl before, like who cares? They're like, yeah, we've done this before. I'm not going to go tear my ACL and lose out on $1 million because I want to be.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
and that's really what we're looking at, right? Is you kind of look at it and say, okay, if you're Chris Olave, how much can you really raise if you're Garrett Wilson, how much can you really raise your stock playing in the Rose Bowl? You can't. You're maxed out on that, right? So there's only bad things that can happen from a draft perspective. Only bad things can happen. Of course, you can win the Rose Bowl, which would be awesome. But like at the same time, if you take a step back and all of a sudden these guys, now Marvin Harrison Jr., he's not going to have any problem getting any shine because of who his dad is, right?
Right.
But still, for him to play that well as a true freshman is a pretty awesome, moment for him that he gets. And again, like you said, because those two guys don't play. So it's one of those things where you just kind of look at it and say, hey, listen, let them choose. And again, I don't begrudge the kids for whatever they want to do. If the kids want to play, let them play. I got no problem with that, because you can't shout about, oh, they shouldn't play because of injuries. Well, then if a kid plays and gets injured, well, don't yell because, oh, the kid got injured. Well, he wanted to play and he got injured. Matt Corral got injured. He wanted to play the game. They lost or did they lose? Either way, it doesn't matter. He gets hurt, right? And so it's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So, because they had a backup quarterback and everything. So, they lose and whatever, and he gets hurt. And so, yeah, it sucks. But like, so what? That was his decision and it didn't work out the way he wanted it to work out. And so I just feel like, we're sitting here arguing about it. And again, I do think the majority of people do believe that the kids can choose and kind of say, hey, listen, we'll just go with whatever. But I just, there is that small segment where they're like, oh, those kids, they commit to playing and they should. It's like, dude, stop it. Like, I think by now we all know that the NCAA is crooked as hell and they're making all this money and these players aren't making any money. And now that the NIL is there, it's pretty cool. They're able to actually make money from sponsorships and stuff, but they don't see one penny of the money that the NCAA gets. So screw the NCAA as far as I'm concerned, and the kids can do whatever the hell they want. So anyways, all right, little college football discussion. That's about as much college football knowledge as I have. So I'm spent.
I'll go forever. I will.
I know you will. Well, you're from Texas. You know what I mean? That's the way it goes. So
I lived in Texas.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. I'm sorry. You're from Massachusetts, but you lived in Texas. But still, you've lived in Texas enough that you didn't have a choice but to care about college football.
Right. No, it's I not to go back to it, but I agree 100%. If you want to allow people to make decisions, you can't, no matter what their decision was, if you agree or not, you can't go back and, bash them for it. That's correct. It's so ridiculous.
Yep. And I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. If they have a decision to make, they make their decision, you respect it. Period. End of story. Right. And I think that's why, that's why with the vaccine stuff, it's like, hey, listen, guys are unvaccinated. It's the way it is. That's why when stuff like AB and Aaron Rodgers happens, people get pissed about it because, like, bro, you have a choice. Do what you're gonna do. That's fine, but don't lie to us. You know what I mean? Like, just make your choice.
Your decisions, yeah.
So but anyways, all right. So that was a fun little conversation. So thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Hopefully the Patriots will get a win this weekend in Miami, and we'll be back next week. Spags will be with us again next week. And hopefully we'll have a nice special guest. Maybe you've heard his voice before, but we'll have a nice special guest.
He's on your TV right now. I'm looking over. He's right there.
Look at that. So hopefully we'll have a special guest next week. All right, guys. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
See you.